Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button, so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Rebecca, and I'm from a small town in Tennessee where everyone knows your name, but no one knows your pain. Here's what I've learned the hard way: love should never leave you bruised. And silence is the most dangerous sound when you're being broken. But let me tell you what finally broke that silence: the day my son saw his father raise a hand to me, and did something no one, not even I, saw coming. It happened on a Wednesday. I remember because the laundry was half folded, the pasta was burning, and the monster I called my husband was already 2 drinks in before the sun even set. He'd been agitated all day, muttering about bills, slamming drawers, pacing like a caged animal. I stayed quiet, like I always did. That was my first mistake. "Where's my belt?" he barked, throwing open the bedroom door so hard the wall dented. I think it's in the laundry basket," I said, gently. "I'll go check." "Useless," he snapped, cutting me off mid-sentence like I wasn't even human. "What do you even do all day, huh?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have one, but because I knew better. Because with men like him, truth is fuel. He wanted a fight. He wanted a reason. And my voice would have been just that. But silence, even well-intended, makes some men angrier. He stormed into the kitchen. My 12-year-old son, Noah, was sitting at the table, quietly doing his homework, pencil trembling slightly between his fingers. His eyes flicked up to me, uncertain but alert. He knew the pattern. He'd seen the signs before. "What, now you've got him doing your job for you too?" my husband sneered, jerking his head toward Noah. "Is that your new man, Becky? Is he the one keeping the house in order while you sit on your lazy?" "That's enough," I said. The words slipped out before I could swallow them. Quiet. But firm. Like a crack of thunder that comes before the storm. His eyes narrowed, and in that 1 second, the air turned solid. He stepped toward me. "What did you say?" I stepped back, heart racing, breath tight. I said, "That's enough." He grabbed the glass from the counter and hurled it against the wall. Shards flew. I felt one slice my wrist as I shielded my face. And then, he hit me. Right there, in front of our son. Open palm. Full force. My head snapped sideways and the sound was louder than the impact. It wasn't just my skin that stung, it was my pride. My dignity. My motherhood. Because that boy, my baby, my Noah, had just watched the man he called Dad treat me like garbage. Like less than. And in that breathless second, I expected silence. But Noah didn't stay silent. He stood up so fast his chair clattered to the floor. "Don't you ever touch my mom again," he shouted, voice shaking, fists clenched. There were tears in his eyes, not from fear, but from rage. My husband laughed, actually laughed. "Or what? You gonna stop me, tough guy?" Noah didn't flinch. He didn't run. He walked forward. "You always say, man protects his family," Noah said, voice cracking, but strong. "So that's what I'm doing." My heart dropped. "Noah, baby, stay back." But Noah moved faster than either of us expected. He grabbed the phone from the counter and with hands trembling, pressed 3 numbers. 911. And he didn't hesitate. "There's a man hitting my mom," he told the operator. "He's drunk. He hit her hard. Please come now. I'm scared he's gonna hurt her more." And then, with the calmness of someone twice his age, he placed the phone on speaker and stared his father in the face. "You taught me to be strong," he said. "But I learned how to be brave, from her." My husband froze. For the first time in years, he looked smaller. Not because Noah was taller, but because his power, his control, was gone. The police were on their way. The truth was out. And he couldn't bully his way out of it this time. He tried to take a step toward Noah. But I stepped between them. "No," I said. "It ends today." We stood there, the three of us, in a triangle of tension and shattered history. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Time slowed. My face burned. My hand bled. But my soul started to heal. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't alone. My son saw the truth. And instead of turning away like the world always had, he stood up. He acted. He fought back. And that moment changed everything. Abuse thrives in silence. But even one voice, no matter how small, can shatter a cycle that's gone on for far too long. If you or someone you know is living in fear, speak up. Call. Reach out. Walk away. You are not weak for wanting peace. You are strong for surviving this long. And you deserve better. The sirens got louder. And my husband? For the first time since I'd met him, he looked scared. He tried to play it off, muttering under his breath, pacing like a caged animal. But his bravado had cracked. He knew what Noah had just done wasn't a threat. It was real. It was happening. And there was no taking it back. I stood there, blood still dripping from my hand, heart pounding in my ears like a war drum. Noah hadn't moved from my side. His tiny frame stood taller than I'd ever seen him. But I could feel the tremble in his shoulders. He was still just a kid. The blue and red lights flashed through our front windows before the knock came. A firm, commanding knock. 3 officers. A female paramedic behind them. My husband stepped forward, hands already raised, trying to play the victim. "She's overreacting," he slurred. "It was just an argument. Things got loud, that's all." But Noah cut him off. "No," he said, his voice clear, unshaken. "He hit her. With his hand. Hard. I saw it." The officers turned to me. I didn't speak. I just nodded. And that's all they needed. They placed him in cuffs right there in the middle of our living room. I didn't cry. Not then. I just watched as the man I once trusted was taken away like the criminal he finally was. I didn't even notice the neighbors peeking through their curtains. But I did notice the way Noah's shoulders finally dropped when the door closed behind the cops. He collapsed into me, arms tight around my waist, burying his face into my stomach like he used to do when he was 5 and scared of thunderstorms. And finally, I cried. Not just for what had happened that night. But for every night before, when I'd told myself, just make it until morning. For every slap that came with an apology. For every bruise I covered with makeup and every smile I faked at parent-teacher conferences. For every time I whispered to myself, "You're staying for the kid." But that night, the kid saved me. The house felt different after that. Quieter. Heavier. The silence wasn't terrifying anymore. But it was filled with thoughts I didn't want to face. The next day, I had to go to the police station to give a full statement. Noah's too. I didn't want him dragged into it, but the officer told me something that shifted everything inside me. "Ma'am," she said gently, "your son is a hero. Don't let him think for 1 second that what he did was wrong." A hero. That word echoed inside me like a drumbeat. I'd been so afraid of scarring him, of ruining his childhood, but the truth was, he was already living in ruins. And instead of being destroyed by it, he stepped up and lit a match to the wreckage. Still, the road ahead wasn't easy. Court hearings. Restraining orders. Custody battles. Social workers. And the worst part? The questions. The looks. Why didn't you leave sooner? What kind of example are you setting? Are you sure it was abuse? Maybe he just lost control. They didn't understand. They didn't see the way he smiled in public and turned into a demon behind closed doors. They didn't hear the names he called me, the doors he slammed inches from my face, the things he whispered in my ear while holding me down. They didn't watch me lie to Noah, time and time again, telling him, "Daddy's just tired," while my hands shook too hard to butter his toast. But Noah understood. Too much, too soon. And I knew, this was my second chance to get it right. So I started therapy. We both did. And little by little, I learned how to be more than just a survivor. I learned how to be a mother again. A real one. One who didn't flinch at loud footsteps. One who didn't jump when the phone rang. One who could look her son in the eye and say, "You're safe now," and mean it. Weeks passed. Then months. The court date came. He pleaded not guilty, of course. Claimed I was lying. Claimed I tricked Noah into making up the story. His lawyer even tried to say I was bitter. Angry over money, over marriage problems, trying to get revenge. Classic. But the truth didn't need defending, because it stood tall in the witness chair. Noah. 12 years old. Too short for the microphone. Wearing his only dress shirt and a clip-on tie. But his voice was steady. "I saw my dad hit my mom," he said, looking directly at the judge. "I heard the sound. I saw her face. He scared me. And I don't want to be scared in my own house anymore." Silence followed. Even the court stenographer paused for a breath. And then, someone unexpected took the stand. His mother. My husband's mother. I hadn't seen her in months. She'd always defended him, always said he was just intense, that I needed to be more patient, more understanding. But that day, she shocked us all. "I enabled him," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. "I knew what he was like. I knew what his father was like. I watched it happen growing up. And I stayed silent. But I won't anymore. Rebecca didn't deserve it. And neither did Noah." The courtroom shifted. And just like that, the cycle started to crack. He was sentenced. It wasn't a life sentence. But it was enough for us to start one. I got a job. A small one. Part-time cashier at a bookstore. But it paid the bills and gave me back my confidence. Noah started smiling more. Drawing again. He even joined the debate team. Sometimes I still catch him watching me when I'm not looking. Just to check if I'm okay. And sometimes, I do the same. Because no matter how brave he was, he's still just a kid. And kids shouldn't have to carry this kind of weight. But here's what I know now, he saved me, so now I'll spend the rest of my life protecting him. Freedom doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like sitting on the floor with a cup of tea, in silence, and realizing you're not scared anymore. It feels like not checking over your shoulder when you laugh too loud, or apologizing for using the good towels, or watching the clock at 5:30, bracing for the storm you used to live with. It feels like breathing, full lungs, full chest, for the first time in years. But healing? Healing doesn't move in a straight line. Some days you wake up strong. Some days you wake up shaking. And some days, you get stabbed in the back by the last person you ever expected to twist the knife. Her name was Candace. She was my best friend. At least, I thought she was. We met in college, back when I was just Rebecca with a journal full of dreams and a smile that hadn't yet learned to fake. She was loud and wild and free in ways I never dared to be. When I met my husband, she was the first person I told. She was there when I got married, sitting in the front row, wiping tears with a lace napkin from the reception table. When I was pregnant with Noah, she drove 2 hours just to bring me homemade soup and a stuffed giraffe. So when things got bad, she was the only person I ever hinted the truth to. Not the whole truth. Just fragments. Sometimes he gets upset. He's under a lot of stress. I think I just make things worse when I push back. And her reply, always, "Men are like that sometimes. Just pick your battles." I thought she didn't understand. I didn't know she chose not to. The day of the court hearing, I walked in holding Noah's hand. We sat down. I kept my head down. The courtroom buzzed, a few family members, some neighbors pretending they just wanted to support. And then I saw her. Candace. Sitting on his side. My stomach flipped. I thought, maybe she's just confused. Maybe she didn't know what he did. Maybe she's here for Noah, or to show support for truth. Then they called her name. And she walked up, and swore to tell the truth. And then, she lied. I never saw any bruises, she said, her voice calm, rehearsed. She never mentioned abuse. If anything, she made it sound like he was the one struggling. I think she's exaggerating. Maybe even manipulating the kid. She always had a flair for drama. My blood ran cold. Noah looked up at me, confused. Betrayed. I couldn't even look at her. It wasn't just the lie. It was the way she said it. Cold. Smooth. Like it was a speech she'd been practicing in front of her mirror for days. I didn't react in court. I stayed still, quiet, like I always did. But when we got home, I collapsed in the hallway, knees to the floor, sobs shaking out of me like an exorcism. How could someone watch me fall and still throw stones? Why? Why would she stand by him? And then it hit me. He needed a character witness. Someone credible. Someone who knew me. Who could paint me as dramatic, unstable, exaggerated. And Candace. Candace always liked being the center of the story. Maybe she resented my silence. Maybe she envied the attention the trial brought. Or maybe, worst of all, she simply didn't care. Either way, she sold me out. And I let her. That betrayal took something from me. Not the case, the judge didn't even consider her testimony in the final ruling. But it took something deeper. Trust. Even after my husband was sentenced, even after we were finally safe, I found myself looking at people differently. Every smile became a maybe. Every hug, a hesitation. But Noah never hesitated. Even as I struggled to rebuild who I was, Noah never treated me like I was broken. He still brought me tea on Saturdays. He still made silly faces at breakfast. And one night, weeks after the trial, he came home from school and handed me something. It was an assignment from his English class. The title? The Person I Admire Most. It was written in pencil, neat and careful. I admire my mom. Because she didn't give up. Even when things got scary. Even when no one believed her. Even when people tried to make her feel small. She still got up every morning. She still packed my lunch. She still smiled at me when I was scared. My mom is strong. Not because she hits hard or yells loud. But because she listens, even when it hurts. Because she stayed when I needed her. And because she left when I needed her more. I cried like I hadn't in months. The kind of cry that cleans you out. The kind that cracks open your ribs and lets the sun pour in. Because for all the mistakes I'd made, for all the time I wasted trying to keep a broken home glued together. My son saw me. And he didn't see a victim. He saw a fighter. That was the night I stopped mourning the past. That was the night I picked up the phone and called Candace. Not to fight. Not to scream. Just to say the words she'd never deserve, but I needed to say. I forgive you. Not because she asked. She never did. Not because she deserved peace. But because I did. I hung up before she could reply. And it felt like burning the last bridge back to my old life, and walking forward, barefoot, free, and unafraid. Healing, like I said, isn't linear. Just when you think the storm has passed, life tests your shelter. After the court case, after Candace's betrayal, after the moment I thought was our turning point, things got quiet again. Not peaceful, just still. That's how trauma works. It hides under bedsheets and behind school projects. It doesn't scream. It whispers. Noah had stopped talking much at dinner. He still smiled, but it was a tight, polite smile. The kind kids were when they're afraid their real feelings will cause trouble. And I noticed the shift, the way he stared at the ground longer, the way he hesitated before hugging me goodbye at school. The spark in his eyes wasn't gone, but it had dimmed. He protected me once. But now, I could feel it, he needed someone to protect him. The call came one afternoon while I was folding laundry. "Mrs. Collins?" "Yes?" "This is Mrs. Dyer. I'm Noah's language arts teacher." My heart dropped into my stomach. "Is he okay?" She hesitated. "He's not in trouble. But I think you should come in." "For what?" "He's been withdrawn lately. He doesn't talk to the other kids much anymore. And yesterday, during a discussion about safe places, he didn't say anything. He just cried." I swallowed hard. "Okay. I'll come in tomorrow." "Bring Noah," she added. "We're having a class presentation. It might help you both." The next morning, Noah didn't want to go. He made every excuse. Said he had a stomachache. Said he forgot his project. Said there was a weird smell in his backpack. I knelt down in front of him, holding his hands. "You don't have to speak if you're not ready," I said gently. "But I'll be there. Right there in the front row." He didn't look up. Just gave me a tiny nod. We walked into the classroom 30 minutes later, and it felt like walking into a spotlight. Parents sat along the back wall. Kids fidgeted nervously in their desks. Posters about emotions, empathy, and finding your voice hung on the walls. Mrs. Dyer greeted us, her eyes kind but cautious. "Today," she said to the room, "is about courage. About sharing what makes us us. And about honoring the people who make us feel safe." One by one, students walked up and read their essays. "My grandma makes me feel safe because she bakes me cookies. My older brother because he walks me home every day. My dog, because she never gets mad." Then Mrs. Dyer called Noah. He didn't move. I could see the way his hands gripped the sides of his desk. His knuckles white. Mrs. Dyer looked at me, about to skip him. But then, Noah stood up. Slowly. And walked to the front of the room. He didn't have a paper. He didn't carry notes. He stood in front of 30 faces, his peers, their parents, his teacher, and me. And said this? "My name is Noah. I used to be scared a lot. I didn't tell anyone, because I didn't want people to think bad things about my family. I didn't want them to think I was different, but something happened this year. Something big. I saw someone I love get hurt. And I stopped it. I called 911. I told the truth. Even when it was scary. And after that, my life changed. Some people said I was brave. Some people looked at me like I was broken. But here's what I know. Bravery isn't loud. Sometimes, it's a whisper. Sometimes, it's crying in a classroom. Sometimes, it's watching someone you love fall apart, and helping them put the pieces back together. My mom is my safe place. She's also my hero. And I hope one day I'll be as strong as she is." The room was silent. Utterly still. Then a clap. Then another. And suddenly the whole room was standing. Not because a teacher told them to. Because they felt it. Because a 12-year-old boy just shattered every wall and told the truth adults are too afraid to say. "And me?" I cried. Not out of shame. Not out of sadness. But because I knew right then, the cycle was broken. My son would not grow up to become what hurt us. He was choosing something better. Something braver. And somehow, I helped him get there. That day was a turning point. Not the court hearing. Not even the 911 call. This. Noah choosing to speak. To share. To stand tall in front of his classmates and say, "This is what I survived." This is who I am. And suddenly, other kids started opening up. One said their parents were fighting at home. Another talked about their mom leaving last year. One brave little girl raised her hand and said, "I think my uncle yells too much, and it makes me scared." Mrs. Dyer told me later that day, what Noah did gave permission to every other kid in that room to be honest. That's what healing looks like. Not a perfect home. Not a happy ending. But a beginning, where truth lives without fear. Some stories don't end with applause. They end with peace. A quiet kind of victory. The kind you feel deep in your bones when no one's watching. It had been almost a year since that night. The night he hit me. The night my son stood up. The night everything changed. Since then, our house had changed, too. No more yelling. No slammed doors. We laughed more. We ate dinner at the table again. We lit candles, even when there was no occasion. And every Sunday morning, Noah made pancakes, half-burnt, always too many chocolate chips. But I never complained. Because those pancakes meant one thing: we were still standing. I was working full-time at the bookstore now. Not just surviving, but living. I'd even started a support group for women like me. We met every other Thursday in the library basement. Some cried. Some stayed silent. But all of them understood. And Noah? He'd grown taller. Voice deeper. Still had that same fire in his eyes. But now it was safe. He had friends. Real ones. He even made the student council. I watched him give a speech in the cafeteria once, smiling and confident. I couldn't stop crying. Because the boy who once trembled behind his father's shadow was becoming a man I was proud to stand beside. But healing, like I said before, isn't linear. Some days still hurt. And one of those days came with a knock at our door. It was mid-April. Windy. Cloudy skies. I had just come home from work. Noah was at a sleepover. When I opened the door, I froze. My mother. We hadn't spoken in 5 years. She had never approved of my marriage. But she also never helped me leave it. When I cried to her in college, told her I wasn't sure about the wedding, that something didn't feel right, she said, "You made your choice. Now live with it." And so I had. Until the choice nearly destroyed me. We didn't speak after that. Not even when she heard about the arrest. Not when Noah made the news for his 911 call. Not even when I mailed her a letter months ago, hoping, maybe, she'd finally say something. But now, here she was. Wrinkled. Tired. Holding a folded blanket in her arms. "I saw Noah's speech," she said quietly. "Someone shared it on Facebook." I didn't know what to say. She held up the blanket. "I made this. For him. When he was born. I never gave it to you. I didn't think you'd want it." She handed it to me. My hand shook. "Rebecca," she whispered. "I didn't know how bad it was. I'm sorry. For all the years you needed a mother, and I wasn't one." Silence. Then I stepped aside. And for the first time in half a decade, I let my mother inside. We sat at the kitchen table. The same one where Noah once clutched his pencil and stared down his father. My mother looked around the house. The walls were painted a lighter color now. Photos lined the mantel, me and Noah on a hike, me laughing at the bookstore, Noah with his friends at the park. "This place," she said softly, "feels like you." I nodded. "It finally does." She took a breath. "Do you think, maybe, I could meet him again? I haven't seen him since he was 6. I looked at her. And I saw it. Not the cold mother from my past. Not the judgment. Just a woman. An aging woman. Regret behind her eyes. A second chance folded in her lap. "Maybe," I said. "But you'll have to earn that." And she nodded. I will. The next morning, Noah came home from his sleepover, hair a mess, sneakers muddy, all grins. Until he saw her. He froze in the hallway. Backpack sliding off one shoulder. Grandma? She stood up. Awkward. Hesitant. Hi, sweetheart. I'm sorry. I should have been there. For you. For your mom. I wasn't brave. But I'm trying now. If you'll let me. Noah looked at me. I gave him nothing, no pressure, no cues. And then, slowly, he walked toward her. And hugged her. Not long. Not tight. But enough. That moment wasn't perfect. But it was honest. And that was more than enough for me. Weeks passed. Then summer came. And on the last day of school, Noah handed me a sealed envelope. What's this? I asked. He grinned. Just open it. It was a letter. From his school principal. Dear Mrs. Collins. It is my great pleasure to inform you that your son, Noah, has been selected to receive this year's Student of Courage Award, an honor reserved for students who have demonstrated extraordinary strength, resilience, and leadership in the face of adversity. His story, and his voice, have changed not only his classmates, but our entire community. We are proud to know him. We are even more honored to know the woman who raised him. Congratulations. I sat on the porch and cried. Again. But this time it wasn't grief. Or fear. Or rage. It was pride. Pure, soul-deep, life-earned pride. Because we made it. We didn't just survive. We grew. We forgave. We healed. And somehow, through all the broken glass and late-night sobs and courtroom chairs and whispered prayers, we became free. You are not broken because someone broke you. You are not less because you stayed. And you are not weak because you finally walked away. You are strong. You are worthy. You are enough. And the moment you choose yourself, the moment you speak or scream or stand, you take back your power. And no one, not even the person who hurt you, can ever take it again. If you're in a situation where you feel trapped, scared, or silenced, please know, you're not alone. Speak up. Reach out. Call someone. Tell someone. It only takes one moment of bravery to change the rest of your life. And if you're someone who's already survived, know this, you didn't lose. You won. And your story? Your voice? It matters more than you know. You are the reason the cycle ends. And the future begins.